Okay, I'm live again. It is 2nd of October and 12:46 a.m. Um, Today I want to talk about testimony, my testimony about how I came to Jesus and the slow process that I've followed in getting up to this point with him. I did not want it to be this slow, but for some reason he released his revelations. He released his revelations uh, with uh, with a frequency that uh, according with a frequency according to his good wisdom, and he did not reveal himself to me in ways the way that he's doing now. So there must be a reason for the same. Okay, so let me begin by talking about my walk with him in 2019, how I came to him, how I how I entertained the idea that Jesus could be God. Jesus could be God. So in 2019, I was I was uh, I was the part of a Facebook group. It was a it was an abuse recovery group. It was a narcissistic abuse recovery group where survivors of narcissistic and psychopathic abuse came together to heal, to find healing together as they shared their experiences and they found empathy in each other. Yeah. So in that group, I came across this comment written by a lady that uh, Jesus died for the sins of the world. And at that time, I I was my brain had been conditioned into thinking along the lines of Hinduism. It was because of my brief relationship with a guy who was a Hindu, who was a hardcore Hindu, and he was into yogis, swamis, and people of such kind. And he guided me into the meditative way that Hinduism follows. So, so during that time, uh, prior to 2019, I was doing transcendental meditation, and I was doing it regularly. I used to do it at least twice a day, morning and evening. And it was it was I thought that I was going going into a desirable direction, but I didn't know that I was opening demonic doors because it was later that I got to know that uh, doing delving into such practices brought uh, delving into such practices opened demonic doors, and it 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 made us more vulnerable to be demonically influenced. Yeah, so there are many ways demons can enter into our lives. Demons can, influence us. So transcendental meditation that focuses on getting rid of all your thoughts and standing as an observer. It's It's one of those ways. Yeah. It's one of the ways you you invite demons to enter into that open space of your mind, into that empty space of your mind. Yeah. So in 2019, I came across this comment that said that Jesus died for the sins of the world, and it came as an epiphany to me. It came as an epiphany to me because I was living with a mindset that one had to balance their positive and negative karmas, positive and negative karmas, in order to, in order that one had to balance their positive and negative karmas, accompanied with meditation and following a certain path of asceticism to 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 reach higher spiritual levels and be closer to God, the way they teach in Hinduism. Yeah. So I had this in mind that we have good works and we have bad works, and they need to be balanced in order for us to be closer to God. But when I came across this sentence that Jesus died for the sins of the world, uh, it came as a very different thing. It came as quite a very different concept to me. And it is a very different concept because oh, excuse me. Yeah. Please pardon me for this brief break that I had. Um, Before I continue with my testimony, I would like to share this brief testimony about this dress that I'm wearing. And this is quite a distraction for me when I'm looking at it, because this is not the way I'm used to dressing. So yeah, and it is distracting me from talking, continuous flow and having a continuous stream of thoughts uh, uh, related to my related to what I wanted to talk here. Yeah. So I 2 days back, on the evening of 30th, uh, not the evening. It was maybe it was perhaps during the day. I received this. I was lying on the floor in worship. I was lying on floor. I was lying on the floor in worship. Yeah. I was lying on the floor in worship, and then I saw Jesus standing in front of me, and he was in my mental view, of course, and he was holding this dress stretched in his hands, stretched vertically in his hands, and he had two love hearts in front of his eyes. So I knew that he wants me to wear this dress that day. And yeah, I had forgotten about this dress. I had bought it many months back. Yeah, and so I chose to follow him, to obey him. It must have been for some reason that he told me to wear this dress. And I had bought this particular dress because of a vision in which a lady wearing this green dress, and her face was not shown, but a very distant, small framed vision of that lady uh, being swung in a duet with another person who was not shown in that vision. Yeah, so that vision, uh, because of that vision, I bought this dress, and it had been lying with me since then. So on 30th of September, I received this vision in which Jesus is telling me to wear this dress. So I can see that I have now advanced in my level of intimacy with him, wherein he is deciding what I should eat as communion, what I should dress on a particular day, or what I should buy, or when I should sleep, or when I should work, or when I should be writing the revelations, you know. So he is, it's almost as if he's taking over my routine slowly. Yeah. Uh, so him telling me to dress in this particular dress came to me as a grand leap in my relationship with him, because it showed that he's now deciding these small matters related to my life, which I otherwise wouldn't let anyone to decide for me. But he is God, and we have to obey him. So I am letting. So I follow. So I choose to follow. So I choose to follow what he shows me. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. So that was one part I wanted to talk about. Uh, I wanted to talk about. And this stress is such a huge distraction for me, because it doesn't represent my inner self, and I feel quite distracted. My God, such a distraction. Okay. Um, so I was talking about my testimony with Jesus. So it was, yeah. So I was talking about the time of 2019. So when I understood that, when I looked at the concept of good works and bad works with the lens that you can't really balance them, but they have to be, but your bad works need to be forgiven. Your sins, that your bad works are called sins, are they have a certain term for them, and it is called sin, and it has to be forgiven. And you can't really balance your sins with your good works. This concept seemed very much came as came as an epiphany to me. You know, um, it made me question what I had been doing during the past few years. Because of that, because of all the uh, be- because of all the study and uh, meditation that I did in my pursuit of Hinduism. Yeah. After I after I understood this concept, I felt I felt like searching on it more. So I watched a few Jesus videos. And then I had a friend who used to share with me. I had a friend from that group, and she used to share with me videos that contained research about spiritual topics, that exposed the reality of this world. So she had shared with me this 5 hour long video. It was longer than 5 hours, and it went by the title that some stars had been found missing by physicists, and there could be found no reason for their disappearance. Yeah. Uh, I later looked up that news that she had talked about, and I found it to be true. I found it to be true. So I chose to watch that video, and it was now 2020. So in 2019, in November 2019, I had shifted to a PG uh, by the name Bira's PG. It was in the E block of this same locality called Vijayanagar. It was, yeah. Let me see if I can zoom it in for myself. Now I am not getting distracted by my outfit because I am in that mental space and not in this outer and not in this outer, not in the space of this, not in the this outer visual space. Yeah. It doesn't affect me now. Okay. Yeah. So in November 2019, I shifted to that PG, and then we had this COVID-19 lockdown, because of which I had to shift back to my home in March 2020. In March 2020, I was back to my home, and I had been by that time. I had this idea ingrained in my mind that, uh, since that yes, indeed, uh, since it could be that Jesus could be God, that Jesus could be God. I did not yet, I perhaps did not yet accept it fully, but I had this strong sense. I had this strong. I had developed this strong sense of understanding of this concept that Jesus could indeed be God, because bad works, you see, because the way you understand something at an absolute level, y- how do I explain this? Yeah. See, earlier I understood the spiritual reality in terms of good works and bad works because of my because of what I read in Hinduism. Prior to that, I was an atheist. I did not believe in balancing good works with bad works. I I I I used to avoid to do bad works because they would come with a burden on my conscience. I did not sin against someone intentionally. I tried. There was a time in 2000, when I was in BSc. It was during my days. It was during the years 2010 to 2013. Um, and I remember it, and I have a clear memory of it. I was locking my door, and I had this strong sense that I had this strong sense overtake me that I had to be perfect. Perfect, not in terms of how I looked, because that has no definition of perfection. And your outer looks come with no definition, with no absolute definition of perfection. But I knew that there is an inner sense of perfection. There is an inner definition of perfection, and I wanted to achieve that inner sense. I wanted to achieve perfection in my behavior and the way I thought, and the way it reflected in how I took decisions related to everything, how I took decisions about everything, even the smallest of things. And not just the decisions that I took, but the way I thought. Even the way I thought had to be perfect, you know? Uh, yeah. So, and then when I came to Hinduism, I was introduced to this concept of good works, bad works. So, from a state of wanting to be perfect, I have now, I am now exposed to this new concept of good works and bad works. So, and who will perform bad works? Who will perform bad works? And an imperfect being, like only an imperfect being can can do bad works, because a perfect being would only do good works, right? So, uh, from a strong sense of wanting to be perfect, I am now introduced to this sense of to this notion of good works and bad works. Uh, and I choose to believe in it because I chose to believe in it because when I was doing transcendental meditation, uh, I saw an eye. I saw a closed eye in a reddish shoe. So that was the time when I would start meditating, and within 15 to 20 minutes or half an hour or so, I would go into a deep sense. I would go into a deep state wherein I would not be aware of my surroundings. I would experience a sense of unity with my surroundings, a sense of spiritual unity, what they teach in those New Age doctrines. And I was into one. I was in that state. I was in. I was in one of my those states. Please excuse me for my improper usage of words because uh, saying things out in words doesn't come naturally to me because that's not how I think. Um, yeah, so it is hard for me to speak fluently, but whenever I am talking, whenever I am translating my thoughts into a language, and I at times use very improper words uh, that don't really describe the object that I have in mind. So, but I have to make this video, and I have to translate. I have to translate my thoughts into a presentable form. So you will have to bear and be patient with me in this process of translation. Okay. So from having a mental state of wanting to be perfect, wherein I perform no bad work, uh, I I am now I now gave path to accepting this notion of good works and bad works, which would imply that which would imply by default that I must be having a bad self which would perform those bad works because a perfect being who is only good will only perform good works. So if you have both good works and bad works, it means you have a dual nature. You have a good self and you have a bad self, because only in that case you will perform good works and bad works. And it went against my previous way that I wanted to live my life, right? And then in 2019, I came across this video. I came across this comment by a lady who said that Jesus died for the sins of the world. Jesus died for the bad works that we all did, bad works of the entire world, that he took the judgment of those bad works on himself. So this notion told me that your bad works don't go, they don't go unnoticed, or they can't be really balanced, but they have to be forgiven, and there is a set judgment for your bad works, and you deserve to be judged for your bad works by God. But God, to save you from that judgment, took the judgment of your bad works on his own self by dying on the cross. This notion now seemed more practical to me. You see, it seemed more practical to me. And also, it also seemed to be correct, intuitively correct. It seemed to be intuitively correct to me. Uh, you see, because if someone is present in a dual state, in a dual state. They are going to be, and if that's the state they are supposed to stay in forever, they're always going to have good works and bad works. They're always going to have a combination of good works and bad works. And God is perfect by definition. God is not an evil being. God is a perfect being. Okay. So if we want to know God, if we want to know God, so this dual state, uh, this doesn't seem to be good. This doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem an inviting option. uh, it doesn't seem an what should I say? What should I say? Like if you want to make tea, if you want to make milk tea, you won't use lemon because lemon it doesn't go along with making the milk tea. So if you want to get if you want to be with if you want to know God, or if you want to be closer to Him, then your state of being a good self and a bad self, it doesn't go well with 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 being together with God. You see, yeah, it's not a good. Uh, this dual state is not. It's not a. It's not a good. Uh, it's not a good suggestion for the model in which people exist together with God. You see, yeah. The dual state of a good self and a bad self existing together in a person. It's not a good. It's not a good uh, suggestion for a model that would contain uh, people living together with God. Uh, yeah, but if we uh, if we um, if we introduce the concept, if we introduce if we now have God forgiving the bad works of people committed because of their bad self, and reconciling and changing them into a likeness of Him, and changing them into a likeness of Him uh, by giving them a glorified body, that would go along with His created beings living with someone who is perfect like Him. So someone with a dual self, he cannot live with God. He cannot live with God for sure, because it doesn't make sense intuitively either. And we need to be made in the likeness of God if we have to live with Him. So this notion, this concept that I was introduced to in that comment that Jesus died for the sins of the world, it somehow seemed more practical to me. It seemed to me as a good uh, a good representation of who God is, because God is perfect, and a perfect being. This is what a perfect being would do. A perfect being would forgive the sins of his creation by taking the judgment of by taking their judgment on his own self. Yeah, yeah. So I had this by 2020. I let go of the idea that there was a that you had to balance your good works and bad works. I knew that this was a false notion, and that Jesus and I now was fully invested in the idea that indeed our sins need to be forgiven. I had not received any revelation by this time, uh, any revelation by the Holy Spirit by this time. Now this day I was in my home, and I was watching that more than 5 hour long video that my friend had shared with me. And while watching that video, perhaps I had watched an hour or so, or about 2 hours of that video. When I had this vision that I have talked about in my previous live stream, that was my first vision. That was my first vision from God. I had this vision of a Y glowing in radium pink, and it rested on a white surface, and the entire structure was in a black background. That was my first vision from God, and I did not know what that meant. I assumed that the Y stood for uh, Yahweh. By that time I knew that the Hebrew name of God was Yahweh, that the Hebrew name of Jesus was Yahusha. So I took that Y for the name of for the first letter of the name of God. Excuse me. Uh, yeah. When I discovered the meaning of that Y, then I was certain that Jesus was indeed God. So this first revelation was my proof, was my proof that Jesus was God. And he gave it to me in a way. He did not reveal it. He did not reveal it to me in a way which would be quite apparent. He gave it to me in a way uh, to understand which I had to search. I had to search for the meaning of that. I had to do some research related to that revelation. Yeah. After I received that revelation, I was now sure that Jesus was indeed God. Uh, yeah. So uh, I started researching about him more. I started reading the New Testament. Uh, I joined a Bible. I downloaded a Bible reading app. I wanted to know the Word of God, and that app daily had daily sections that you had to read from the Bible. Uh, uh, so I ended up reading sections from the Old Testament of the Bible. I did not know uh, what the New Testament stood for, what the Old Testament was for. Um, Even though I knew the meaning of, yeah, though I knew the meaning of the name of God, I did not know. Uh, I did not know when Jesus came. Uh, I did not know the significance of Old Testament and the New Testament. I I I was following. I only knew what God showed me. God had shown me, and God had shown me that why. So I knew that this I knew for certain that um, Jesus is God, and his crucifixion, those nails on his hands, they were his expression. They were expression of his love for his creation. Yeah. Um, Afterwards, yeah. So that friend of mine then told me that there is something called Sabbath, which starts every Friday sunset, and it ends on the sunset of. It ends after 24 hours on Saturday sunset. Um, yeah, she told me that it was something. It was the day that people fasted on. Yeah, so I too fasted on that day, and later on I got to know that keeping Sabbath was a part of the Ten Commandments that God gave to Israelites. So in 2000, so when in November 2019, I shifted to that PG, and in March 2020, I returned to my home in Haryana. During that period of 5 months, I only entertained that idea of Jesus being God. But I did not. I had that idea in my mind that Jesus could be God, and I had this strong sense that He indeed was God. But still, I had some confusion. I did not accept. Um, I did not. I had no proof, though it made sense to it intuitively made sense to me. It made sense to me intuitively, but I did not have proof that Jesus was indeed God. So during those 5 months, I what did I do? Yeah, I was in a lot of mental pain because I had my first narcissistic betrayal, and yeah, I used to overeat a lot. I used to eat most of the times. I would feel an urge to eat after every hour or after every 2 hours. Yeah, so those days I was occupied with resting. I spent a lot of time resting on bed because I could not do anything else. Because I used to be in a lot of mental pain. So those months I spent resting, and then I had my PhD work as well. But that I did not do. I did not spend a lot of time doing that because I had done most of it in the earlier in the previous year of 2018, in the previous year 2018, when I had received yet uh, yet uh, yet another revelation from God related to the model that I would develop later as a part of my PhD. I did not know that. I did not know then that that revelation was from God. I just took it as I took it as something that came from my own subconscious mind, but I did not really understand it as something that could be given by God. Also, I did not believe in Jesus at the time that I received that. The structure of the model equations, the structure of the equations of the model that I was supposed to build as a part of my PhD problem. This was in 2018. Yeah, yeah. So I spent I spent many months. I spent many months in listening to narcissistic abuse recovery videos, and uh, yeah, and watching. Um, yeah, that's how I spend most of my time. I spent most of my time following narcissistic abuse recovery channels and listening to their videos. Um, in 2020, I was in a relatively better state, in a better mental state, and therefore, I this day I randomly thought of opening that 5 hour long video which my friend had suggested, and watching that video, I had that why revelation. So I now had a proof from God. Yeah. And later on, she told me to keep Sabbath. She suggested me to keep Sabbath on on Saturdays, on that particular Saturday. After which uh, uh, I came across the Ten Commandments given by God to Israelites. Yeah. Um, After I discovered those Ten Commandments online, I started keeping Sabbath every day because I wanted to follow those commandments fully. Perhaps I will read those Ten Commandments. Yeah. So the Ten Commandments that I came across were, and they are written in Exodus 20 uh, of the Bible. So yeah. So God told Israelites to follow these Ten Commandments very strictly, and there was strict punishment for breaking these commandments. These commandments are basic basic character traits that would reflect the nature of God. And we are supposed to embody his nature, being his children. So the commandments are, you shall have no other gods before me. So we are not supposed to have any other God beside the Creator God, the Creator God who, the Most High Creator God who created everything. So there are many. I will talk about this later. Uh, about why there are many gods in this world. You will find many videos on the same on online. You will find many videos online about this. But just for the sake of completion, I will talk briefly later about why there are many gods uh, in the earth system. So God gave these 10 commandments to the Israelites. One, the first one was, "You shall have no other gods before me." So God wanted them to worship Him alone as their God. He did not want them to go after other gods. So, which means that God is a God of faithful commitment. Huh? The second, so the second commandment he gave them was, "You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments." So, in the second commandment, God is saying, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image." So God is telling them to not make any idol. So, the second commandment is, "You shall not make any idol." The third commandment is, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain." And the fourth one has talks about the Sabbath, which my friend told me. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The fifth commandment is, honor your father and your mother. Sixth one is, you shall not murder. The seventh commandment is, you shall not commit adultery. The eighth commandment is, you shall not steal. The ninth commandment is, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And the tenth commandment is, you shall not covet. Yeah. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So I came across these 10 commandments, and you see, this version of God, this God who is giving these commandments to his people to follow. This kind of God seemed quite desirable to me, because you see, he's not asking you to balance your good works with your bad works. He's giving you a set of rules to follow. He's telling you that do these things. This is the way to live perfectly. So he is not saying that go and commit a sin and balance it with a good work. No, he is telling you, do not commit a sin in the first place, but follow these commandments that I'm giving you, so that you can be my children. Which makes more sense. It has to be true. Yeah. So the way that we understand that, we intuitively understand 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 cannot be 3. We cannot prove. Uh, we cannot have a rigorous proof of 1 plus 1. Maybe we can have a rigorous proof of 1 plus 1 if, being 2. Different in, yeah, in different in um, we can have different ways of proving it. But there is an intuitive way we know that it has to be true. It has to be true. There is no other way it could be anything else, right? Now there is this intuitive way of knowing, and then there is this external way of proving. So these commandments. So God is asking His children to intuitively know that these commandments reflect my nature. God is training His children to ingrain in their minds that these are the commandments that embody my nature. That you have to you have to ingrain these commandments in your intuition, that they should come as something which is natural, which is quite natural, which you don't have to think hard about, you know. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, so this god this God who wants His children to have the kind of mind, to have the kind of mind that would embody His nature in an intuitive way, then to do something wrong and then try to balance it with something good. It seemed This type of God seemed more like God to me. Like God has to be this way. God has to be this way only. God will not tell you to sin. God will tell you to not sin in the first place. And He will help you to not sin in the first place by giving you a model to follow. So, yeah, instead of telling you, uh, instead of, instead of, instead of having telling you that you could balance your bad works with your good works. Yeah. So this this kind of God is seems to me a better intuitively seems to me a better a better not a better he seems to me the perfect being that would fit the description of a god, that would fit the description of a perfect god, because a perfect god wants his children to have a perfect mind. He will not tell them to sin and balance it with a good work, but he will he will have them to not sin in the first place, and he will give them a model to help them to not sin. That these are the rules, you follow them, and you will not sin. So yeah, uh, uh, so I am discovering. So as I am getting to know him, so he is revealing info to me in a sequence according to his good wisdom. Uh, yeah. uh, so when I came across these commandments, I started keeping Sabbath every Saturday, and I would begin by fasting on Friday sunset, and I will not even drink water until the next evening, which is on Saturday sunset. Let me just see if okay, yeah, it's been 49 minutes and 40 seconds. I have to uh, yeah, I began this video to share about the testimony related to distress and how it pertains to my increased intimacy with God. Yeah. And now I am talking about um, how I came to Jesus in the first place and why I accepted Him as God. There was a sequence of events and information that He had me go through. a sequence of information that he released to me, so that it would be so that I would accept him as God. Okay. Uh, so this Saturday, I was so this Saturday also. So this Saturday at home, I kept a Sabbath. I had fasted. I did not drink water. Now, towards or consume any food. Towards the end of the Sabbath, I I wanted to pray. Now, by this time, I did not. You see, I did not know how to pray. I did not know how to pray. I did not know what to pray for. Like we all know those. We all know those general prayers. Um, of goodwill, general prayers of goodwill for everyone, for the poor, for refugee countries, or for um, the general prayers that one prays for the entire world. We all know those prayers to for the needy ones to get help. Um, yeah, I only knew the general goodwill prayers, uh, but I also could sense that there is something more to prayer. There is something um, there is something inherently deeper. There is something inherently deeper related to the act of praying than just saying out those general goodwill prayers. So and I did not know what to pray for that evening, but I wanted to pray because yeah, I wanted to experience what what could prayer ensue, like when you pray, what could be the result, or if you call on God, is He going to answer back, or is He going to manifest Himself? Is He going to? What is it? What happens when you call on God? What happens when you call on God with with uh, with a true heart, or with a heart that wants to with a desiring heart, with a heart that is calling onto Him with 100% genuinity. So what happens when you call on God with a heart uh, of 100% genuinity? So that evening, by that time, I knew I had watched those videos in which I got to know that his Hebrew name was Yahuwah. Those four letters of his Hebrew name, the third one of which stands for nail. I had already watched that video, and I knew that his Hebrew name was Yahuwah, Yahuah. Um, and that evening, that late evening, towards the end of my Sabbath, I I wanted to end my Sabbath by experimenting with praying, because you see, when I received that Y vision, I was not praying. It was quite unexpected. He gave it to me without asking. I was watching that video, and he showed it to me out of nowhere. Yeah. Uh, and now I wanted to experiment with praying after that Sabbath. So what I did was, and I did not know what to pray for, and I did not want to pray those goodwill prayers. So I started calling out upon his name, Yahuwah, in my heart. I did not say it out loudly. I started calling out on his name in my heart. I kept saying Yahuwah, Yahuwah, Yahuwah in my heart. And as I did so, I knew that I was calling on his name with 100% genuinity, because I felt because I felt this sense of I felt a tangible sensation inside my heart as I was calling on his name. I could feel, yeah. It was almost as if I was having a deep experience while calling his name. Um, and then, as I continued calling on his name, that was my second vision that I received. I saw a globe. I saw a globe, and it was rotating. A rotating globe, and it was covered with black serpents. It was covered with black serpents. It was entirely covered with black serpents, and it was rotating, and it kept rotating. And after a while, I saw fireworks. I saw fireworks, fire moving around that globe, and it seemed as if the entire globe was going to be burnt with fire now. Like that fire was going to consume that globe and burn those snakes. I did not understand at all what this vision meant. I did not understand at all what this vision meant, and I kept it in my memory. I kept it in my mental memory. I watched some videos. I During that time I was watching a lot of videos by several different preachers. So this particular preacher said that during the end times, God was going to bring every demon from the ends of the universe on earth. God was going to bring demons, all the demons onto earth, and they were going to be judged. So that was one way I understood that those serpents could represent uh, those serpents could represent those demons. But still, I took it with a grain of salt because I did not find any related verse in the Bible. Though the preacher said that statement, he made that statement according to his own good understanding. I did not find a related verse, a directly relating verse in the Bible. So I kept it. Um, so that vision was still unclear to me. Yeah. So for a long, so I was in this state from March 2020 to March 2021. I stayed at my home during COVID lockdown. I was watching. I my days used to be my days were busy with household chores and listening to and getting closer to getting to know God more as I was watching videos, and I had started reading the Bible now. I had started reading the New Testament. I don't remember who suggested it to me uh, to read the New Testament, but somehow I knew that I had to read the New Testament first because that contained information about Jesus, and Jesus is the key to salvation. So I began reading the New Testament first, and uh, I knew that I would read the old one after I am done with this New Testament. Yeah. Uh, so 1 year I spent at home, one long year, during which I had a few more dreams during that year, during the year of during the year March 2020 to March 2021. I had a few more dreams, which I did not know were at first I did not know they were prophetic, but they seemed, uh, but they yeah. But one of them I knew for sure was a prophetic dream, but others, but I took things with a grain of salt. I took things with a grain of salt. By this time, I had not seen God. I had not seen Jesus. I had not heard. Yeah, I had heard His voice. I had heard the calling of my name, Kartika. There were a few more experiences. There were a few more experiences that I had during that year. at home. Yeah. Once I was sleeping in the master bedroom of my home, and yeah, I was on the bigger bed. My youngest brother was on the smaller bed to my left, and we were woken up by the sound of a lady coming from the top right corner of that room, and that lady was shouting. She was shouting in tongues. By that time, I knew what praying in tongues was. So I could tell that she was shouting in tongues. Uh, we did not understand what she was saying, but we knew that she was shouting. That woke us up. And again, I did not know what that meant. I did not know what that meant. Why was that lady shouting in that loud tone, in tongues? Yeah. So these, so I, and then this more, this different night, I had my Bible placed to my side as I was sleeping because I think I think I was being attacked by demons even then, uh, because I had just come out of transcendental meditation, and at times I felt an oppressing presence around me, in sleep, especially when I would be asleep. Yeah, and it would be very difficult to fight. I did not know how to fight it. I would perhaps, and I don't remember what I used to do whenever I would feel that oppression. So this night I was uh, sleeping, and I had my Bible to my left. Uh, I used to sleep with my Bible because I felt to, in a way, to fight that demonic oppression. I did not know what else to do, but I thought perhaps sleeping with, perhaps, well, it is the word of God. If you don't know what to do, you do the only thing that you know, right? So this was the only thing that I knew. Besides calling, besides praying to God or calling on to Him, uh, this was the next thing that I uh, could do, which is to keep His word close to me, uh, and also I did not receive answers, immediate answers to my prayers. I used to pray at times. I wanted very I wanted so I desired so hard to be closer to him, but I was not receiving anything. You see, I was not receiving any output. Like, I was not receiving outputs as I desired, as much outputs as I desired, as much communication from him as I desired. He gave me, he gave me, he gave me revelations, um, according to his own good judgment. Yeah. So by 2021, by March 2021, I had a few revelations, but I had not yet seen Jesus. I had not yet seen Jesus. I had not heard his voice except the calling of my name, Kartika, that came right from my heart and had me. Like, I was asleep on my bed, like this, and I heard this sound, and I woke up. It was so strong. It was so strong. It came out so strong that it had me straight on sit straight on the bed. Yeah. What happened after that? In 2021, in March 2021, I shifted to Delhi, to Sarod Sadan in Vijayanagar. I shifted to this place, to this PG in Vijayanagar, single story, and it was near to my workplace. It was near to my workplace, Department of physics and astrophysics, in which I am a PhD student. Yeah, PhD student. Yeah, uh, of which I am a student. Yeah, I don't know. I have been going through this camera situation, and it has totally messed up my brain, uh, which makes it hard for me to. It messes up with my normal way of normal way of um, speaking and thinking. So I make repetitions. I make repetitions which I otherwise wouldn't have. So in 2021, I shifted to Sarod Southern, and I was continuing. I was continuing in my Bible reading, and I wanted to work, and I wanted to pursue God more, and um, work for Him diligently. I knew that I was called by God, but perhaps He called me to prove to me that He was real and that His Spirit indeed lived inside me. But what He wanted me to do uh, uh, wasn't yet clear yet. Wasn't yet clear to me. He had given me a healing dream within the span of the time March 20 within the span of the time between March 2020 to March 2021. But I did not know when was that dream going to come to pass, or how I was going to reach to that stage. Yeah. So in 2021, while living in Sarod Southern, I um, I used to read Bible. I used to do my days were consumed with listening to videos, reading the Word. I was still reading New Testament. Yeah, it took me a long time to cover the entire New Testament, and at times I would be bored because there were a lot of repetitions, and I did not have the mind. I did not have the mind needed to grasp the to grasp the to grasp what the disciples were saying, because it took me a while to understand how the heavenly gifts worked, and how they manifested in life, in how they how they manifested in the lives of people. Now, if now I read the New Testament, I would do it, and I would do it much quicker than I did it the last time that I read it. So in 2021, uh, in March 2021, uh, yeah. So during the mid of year 2021, I received another vision. So I am receiving these visions. I have these series of visions that don't make sense to me, that are not making any sense to me, uh, and I am not even recording them as of now. I am not recording these visions. I have not yet started recording these visions because I have not been led to. I did not receive any vision to record these visions. Yeah, like how would I know that I am to record those visions, unless I am told that I have to record them. Yeah, it and many of those visions I did not understand. I will take a brief break. I will take a brief break, as it has been more than an hour. I need to refresh myself a bit. So I will leave the stream for around a minute. In 2020, in 2021, I had a series of revelations, and some of those revelations pertained to situations, uh, pertained to they were metaphoric of what was going in my life, what was going around in my life, but I did not understand them yet. My friend, that same friend who told me to keep the Sabbath, who suggested me to keep the Sabbath, and introduced me to that 5 hour long video. She then suggested me this channel of uh, uh, this channel named Corey Barbie that had Jonathan Clegg, who is yet another child of God whom he called to serve him. So she introduced me to his ministry. She shared with me one of his videos. I watched it. It did not make much sense to me. After watching a few of his videos, and all of his videos used to be more than an hour long. So uh, after watching many of his videos, uh, I now understood what my globe revelation meant. What that revelation of globe with serpents, that revelation of globe covered with serpents, entirely covered with serpents meant. God revealed to him. So he talks in his ministry about this thing called serpent race. So God revealed to him that the earth is covered, that the earth is a home to the serpent race, the race started by the devil. Yeah. So if you go and follow his ministry, you will come across valuable info, which he keeps sharing as he sees them, as he sees the spiritual truth being reflected in everyday objects, in everyday events, objects, and everyday behavior of people around him. So that's what his ministry is about. He reveals the spiritual truth of the system, uh, hidden in hidden in brand logos, or the um, uh, songs that are made by or songs made by celebrities that contain the truth of the system, that contain the hidden truth of the system. Yeah. After watching his videos, after watching his videos, I understood what my globe revelation meant. So I knew that I had to wait for almost an year to understand my globe revelation. You see, yeah, I don't know why God made me that long, made me wait that long. I received I got to know that Jesus was God in 2019. Like in 2020, I got the confirmation that He indeed is God, and and then I also get a dream in which I am healing in His name. In 2021, he reveals to me the meaning of that previous vision that I had in 2020, that that earth is covered with the serpent race, and yeah, and and now I have this promise of marriage. I have this promise of wedding, uh, which was also given to me as a vision, in 2021 when I was staying in Sarut. So I had this vision of a wedding, in Sarojini. And I had this vision in the middle of the year 2021. In October 2021, I shifted. I shifted to. I shifted to the adjacent PG because of some altercations that I had with my PG owner. I did not like his behavior as such, so I shifted to the adjacent PG. The people there, the owners there, I found them quite helpful. Like they were good. They were good and not boundary breaching as boundary breaching as the owner of my previous PG. Yeah. Um, so he perhaps his behavior did not perhaps his behavior did not come across as boundary breaching to him, but to me, I was already consumed with a lot of things in my mind, and I used to be busy most of the days, and he expected me to and I did not want to build and I was trying to keep my company with God or with I wanted to be surrounded with believers, and I was trying to find company that would suit my newfound belief in God, whom I knew was God, whom I had proof that He was indeed God. And he would come and he would come and ask me to spend time with him when I am not even mentally ready. Like I did not have that friendly. I had a general goodwill. I had a mindset of general goodwill for him, but I did not have an exclusive a mind of exclusive friendship with him, which he was expecting to build with me. So when I did not reciprocate in that manner, he started behaving. He started shouting at me, you know, and yeah, he started behaving rudely. So I chose to leave that PG and I shifted to the adjacent one. The owners of that PG were good. Yeah. So in October 2021, I shifted to A60. It also goes by the name of Swami Jagannatha. And also that PG had it saved me money also, because my previous PG I lived in a I lived in a shorter room. It was a single seater. It was a shorter. It was a smaller room. It was a single seater, and I was uh, and it did not have as many and it did not have as many facilities that the that at that at, that adjacent PG had. So in A16, I had to pay lesser rent, and I had more number of facilities uh, to yeah I had so it decreased my workload as well, and I was already mentally I was all yeah I was already going through mental. I think God brought me there to I don't know why did He bring me there. Maybe it must be it must be for some reason, He knows, but perhaps it was because it led near. Okay, I'll take a minute break. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So in that PG, perhaps it was a part of his plan for me to make that prophetic symbol in that PG, and for a few other reasons as well. Yeah. So yeah, I shifted to that place and I stayed there for about. I shifted to that place in October 2021, and Then I changed my room in March 2022. In March 2022, excuse me. And I stayed in that room for a good amount of 1 year. From October 2021 to March 2023, I stayed in that A16, that Swami Jagannath Dham. During that time, I had a load of revelations. Now, my load of revelations is now increasing gradually. And I used to spend my time alone on the roof of A16. I used to like roaming on the roof alone. I used to like to walk alone in the cool of the night. Yeah, I found it relaxing. So this particular day, you see, by this time, I knew that I was called by God, and He has been giving me these revelations. But I am not content because I see I see Jonathan. I see how well he is led by God. He hears him clearly, you know, he hears him clearly, and God tells him, go there. Like God tells him exactly where to go, and if he's doing something, God stops him doing from doing that. God stops him midway and tells him to go something else. So and then I was also following Sis Adele's ministry, and she also was well advanced in her walk with God. She received clear words. She received words, word by word, um, revelations from God. So God would talk to her in her spirit and give her words to write that she would that she would release on her channel. Yeah. So I saw that all these people, they hear clearly from God. Uh, they know what they're supposed to do, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. But me, I have these revelations, but I am in a state of confusion. I don't know what I'm supposed to. I know that I'm supposed to heal, but when is it going to ensue? And then I have these revelations that don't make sense to me, uh, uh, and then I started having revelations with Bollywood people, which did not make even more sense to me. So so starting with the why, and then with the globe that's covered with serpents, and then moving on to the promise of promise of wedding, promise of a marriage, and and then making that prophetic symbol, fol- f- followed by more revelations about people around me. So it seemed as if I didn't really know why was God giving me all these revelations. Because if I am not hearing Him, see, if I cannot, you see, receiving a revelation and knowing the reason why am I receiving that revelation? Okay, so if I have a revelation but I don't know what to do about it, uh, what will I do with that revelation? Right. So I had my first roommate in that PG, Pinky. God gave me a revelation that she was a cold blooded alien. She was lying beside me, and God showed me that she was like a cold-blooded alien. God represented her legs like that of an alien, and there was a blue vein. There was a blue vein that ran through her leg, and God was representing her as a cold-blooded alien. Yeah, and her behavior was not her behavior was not good with me either. Like she was for no reason she would insult me indirectly while being on phone, but to my face she would not say anything. To my face she would not say anything bad to me directly. Yeah, but behind my back, or when talking to other people, she would insult me. It did not really make any sense to me. Why would she do that when I am not targeting her in any way, shape, or form? Then why should she behave in that manner? Yeah. Um, yeah. Uh, and then I received this vision in which I saw that I saw the screen of my online notebook. The notebook app, the Microsoft's notebook app. Uh, so there was a page opened. So I saw the vision of a page of that app, and I saw I can't take it anymore being typed out on that page. And then that line got deleted. It did not, again, like other visions, it did not make any sense to me. Um, but I had that, I kept that vision in my mind. So this particular day, some days passed. I don't know if some days passed or a week or some weeks passed. But this particular day, I felt quite, um, I felt too low in spirit. And I did not know what to do about it. So I chose, so I thought of write, so I thought of starting writing in my notebook, in that notebook app again. I had begun writing in that app after that Hindu guy had left me in a broken state when I was in a lot of mental and emotional pain, and I was also feeling brainwashed. I felt as if I had been brainwashed into Hinduism, and my entire thought structure had been changed. Yeah, because I had gone too deep into transcendental meditation, and I felt that it had messed up the entire structure of my brain. So, yeah, so where was I? Um I started writing in my notebook because that evening I was feeling too low in spirit. But whatever I wrote, I deleted it later. I wrote an entire page. I wrote an entire page and I deleted it. Yeah, it was after that I deleted it that I recalled that I had that revelation in which I wrote, I can't take it anymore, and that no, it was not shown who wrote that sentence, but what was shown was that sentence being typed out on that app, and then getting deleted. So I saw that that vision had come to pass now. Yeah, and then in the second revelation that I had related to that notebook app was I love you being typed on it. So I saw I love you dot dot being typed on that notebook app, and it stayed there. It did not get deleted. So and the vision then ended. So that was my second revelation pertaining to the notebook app. Okay, so yeah. So I have so it seems so now that I look at it, perhaps the entire perhaps the entire an entire notebook, perhaps the entire notebook is God's way of saying I love you to you. Because yeah, because he has given me all those revelations. He has um, yeah, it is God's way of saying I love you to you. Because you see, he was leading me. He knew, he knew when I would be feeling what I would be feeling. So yeah, he started with he told me beforehand that I would be feeling this way. I can't take this anymore. Which was the I can't take this anymore. This sentence pertained to the situation, the camera situation that I had around me, which was the camera situation that was live telecasting me in the whole world, you know. Yeah. So it had me quite feeling quite low in spirit that particular evening. And then the second notebook revelation said, "I love you." Yeah. So I uh, so gradually, I am different. Gradually, I learned that uh, the things that I happen to focus at, they are not coincidental, but they come with prophetic significance. So gradually, I am building in gradually I'm building up in identifying the the in identifying how I am responding to the Holy Spirit, to the nudges of the Holy Spirit that is present inside of me. So this day I happened to focus on this notebook, the cover of this notebook, and somehow I felt uh, that this cover is being uh, highlighted to me. While previously, when I did not know God, uh, I would take it as a casual act of staring at something. But now, things have started to assume a different a different significance. Now they come with different significance. Looking at things, or yeah, looking at certain things, or looking at coming up across some certain numbers. Be it whenever I look at my, be it uh, whenever I see my watch, you know, yeah, or yeah. So now things have started to come with a different, with with a different significance, and then I hear, these, and then this day this note played in my spirit. I was sitting beside my bed. I don't know what I was doing. This melody played in my spirit. This melody pertaining to this Bollywood song. Perhaps I will play that melody out. I hope that sound was audible. So that was the melody that played in my heart out of nowhere. And this was a song I had not listened to for many years. It was nowhere in my memory. I wasn't thinking about it. Perhaps I used to listen. Perhaps I listened to it back in my school days. Perhaps that was the last time that I listened to this song. But why is this melody playing in my spirit now? So, yeah. So what I did with this melody, I made a note of it. So by this time, I had started to making no. I had started making notes. I had started making notes of the things that were being highlighted to me, my understanding of them, and the things that I heard in my spirit. And then this other day, I felt a sudden deep sadness come over me. I don't know why. I did not know if it was my own sadness or someone else's sadness. But I felt this sudden deep sadness overtake me. And then I heard in my spirit, uh, "You are your own God." I heard this. I heard this sad sound. I heard this sad and quiet voice that whispered in my heart, that whispered to me in my heart that you are your own God. You are your own God. Which okay, which made me feel sad as well. But then you see, if I was not receiving I was not receiving too direct of too direct communication with God. Like He would give me visions, or He would highlight things to me, or He would play things in my or He at times I understood them, at times I did not. And now He's telling me that I am my own God. So it did not make any sense to me. So why is he being sad by telling me that I am my own God when he's not giving me direct instructions? You see, when he is giving me instructions in a way which seem confusing to me, uh, uh, and I am not able to follow them properly, and I do follow them. I do follow them in the part that I understand, that part I follow, and yeah, it was almost as if he was keeping me in a state of confusion. Yeah, it was almost as if he's the one who is not releasing things to me in a clear way, and then he's telling me that I am my own God. Now, if he told me clearly that I'm supposed to do this, and that is what I wanted. I wanted to him to tell me clearly that he wanted me to do that. Now, if he was to tell me clearly, I would go and do that thing. But he is not. He is not. He is revealing things to me in a way which seems confusing. Which seems confusing to me. And then he's saying, "You are your own God." Yeah. So when I heard that statement, when I heard that in my spirit, I sat on my chair in front of my table. I sat with him for about 2 hours or so. I sat with him for a long time then, because I wanted to spend time with him. And in that time, I did not I did not get any vision. I did not receive anything. I did not. I did not hear anything, but I was just assuming that I am spending time with God, uh, that I am spending, that He's indeed looking at me, that He's indeed see that that I indeed want to, spend time with Him, that I indeed want to be close to Him, you know. And He, yeah, so. He should have given me clear instructions. He should have yeah, he should have given me clear instructions. If he wanted me to do something, he should have come across as a clear voice and told me that, see, in the same way that Jonathan heard a voice in his spirit that told him that that he should learn to trust that voice because it was the Lord God. Uh, no, he did not hear that voice in his spirit. An angel, he met an angel, and that angel told him that the voice that he is hearing in his spirit is the voice of the Lord God, and that he should learn to trust that voice. So, but I did not have any such angelic encounter. I only had visions, and I waited for more than an year to understand the meaning of one of those visions. So you see, I have been very patient in my walk with God, because I did not understand many things at first, and I had to wait for a long time before I understood those things. I had to wait a long time before I understood the things that I received years back. Oh yeah. What happened then? Yeah. Yeah. So during my time in A16, I started making notes of I started making notes of what was being highlighted to me. There were songs. Uh, there were songs that played in my spirit when I would wake up. At that time, I did not have many prophetic dreams as I have now. These days, I wake up every day. Every day, I wake up with a prophetic dream that relates with my situation. And whenever I sit idle or not idle, I sit to rest with God. I get a series of vision revelations, or I hear something. But back in those days, none of these things happened. Uh, if I would wake up, I would wake up with a song revelation. A song would play in my spirit, so I would record that song, and I would, yeah, that's what I used to do. Yeah. So I spent that, and then one day, this day, I was walking on roof, and I was feeling so discontent. I was feeling so dissatisfied with my walk with God because I had not seen Him. I had not heard His voice the way Jonathan and Adele and others and others that I followed. Lana Wasser also. I was following Lana's ministry as well, and her words spoke to me as well. Yeah. So I did not hear God in in that way, but I knew that I did hear from Him, but I did not hear Him as clearly as they did. Yeah, where if God gave them a vision, He also told them its meaning. You know, if God gave them a vision, He also told them its meaning, and they would hear it word by word. But for me, it's everything is so slow. Uh, uh, he The only voice that the only time that I heard his voice was when he called out my name, Kartika. It was a very deep voice. It was a very deep voice. Yeah, and it came from deep within me. Um, and the next thing and the next voice that I heard was, "You are your own God," which was said in a hurtful tone. Uh, and then there was this one more thing that I had heard in my spirit, which was, "Step out, step out." It was in A16. It was in A16 when I was staying in room number D4. I was sitting and I was asking God, "God, what I'm supposed to do?" But I was asking Him, "What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do?" And He told me, "Step out." He told me, "Step out." Now, what after what step out of my room, step out of the building. So I stepped out of the building, and then I briefly and went back to my room. Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did. Yeah. I did not know if that step out came with a metaphoric meaning, but he said, but I heard a step out twice. Yeah. So, yeah. So this night I was walking on the roof, and I was feeling very much dissatisfied. I wanted to see. It was not that I was dissatisfied. I was growing closer to God. I was reading His Word, but I was also living in a state of confusion. You- Yeah. So I started calling. I did not start calling out on his name. I had this strong desire uh, to want to see him. I was filled with no, I did not want to see him. I was filled with a strong sense of love for him. I was filled as suddenly I was filled with a strong sense of love for Jesus. I was moving to and fro, and as I reached the end towards the railing of of the roof, I was filled with a strong sense of love for Jesus. And when I turned, I saw him standing. That was the first time. That was the first time I saw Jesus, and it was on the roof of A16. He stood at a distance of about. He stood at a distance of about 10 meters, perhaps 6 to 7 meters. I don't know. He stood behind that structure that's there on their roof. Yeah, and it was dark. He was dressed in a full white, full length white tunic with a red drape, and uh, he had neck length hair, a bit of stubble, and he was looking in my direction. Okay, and looking at him, I got confused about what was I supposed to do. Was I to run to him, or was I decided to brisk walk. I thought I knew that I was being watched, that the cameras were still around me. So running to him seemed to me a bad idea, because I thought it would make me look foolish if I was to run, if I was to run on the roof. So I decided to brisk walk towards him, and when I decided that, and I took my first step, he disappeared. He disappeared. So, but at least I saw him, even if it was for brief, even if it was for a brief period of a few seconds. So you see, he he did not, for years. Now it now perhaps, so from November 2019 to November 2020, 21, 22. Now, so for 3 years, for more than 3 years, for more than 2.5 years, I did not see Jesus. I started believing in him in 2020 or late 2019. Yeah, it's safe to assume that I started believing in him in early 2020. In 2021, yeah, and for 2 years, after 2 years, I saw him for the first time on the roof of A16. Yeah, and that too for a very brief period of time. So, and after, so things are becoming clear after durations of years. Yeah, it has been such a slow process. Yeah, so in A16, I wrote a lot of things. I wrote all the revelations I received. Many did not make sense to me, but I kept recording them. I kept recording them. I kept recording. Uh, yeah, I kept recording. I was not even expecting those revelations. Yeah, uh, because they they did not go well. They did not go along with how I interacted with people. I interacted in a very straightforward manner. I am not used to talk indirectly, with talk with someone else and say things about a different person. I don't do that. It seems a very cheap thing to me to do. Uh, and people do now. Now I have learned to do that, but I don't do it to insult others. I do it to rebuke, or I do it to rebuke those who come to insult me, because I, as a child of God, has every right to rebuke the weapons of devil that come at me. You know. And secondly, I use that tactic to no that that's the only way I use that tactic to rebuke the children of devil. I don't use it to insult innocent people. or to put someone down uselessly for no reason. Yeah. So I incorporated that tactic in my life, but I incorporated it in a godly way. Yeah. So in that PG, I wrote many things. I kept writing things. I received further revelations that were supposed to lead me in the direction of the fulfillment of the promise that I had received in 20 that I had received in my previous PG, which was Sarotsagu. Yeah, and I started implementing those revelations. Uh, though those revelations seemed to go against my nature because I did not think a lot about my I did not think a lot about polishing the outer self because I was very much concerned with how I thought. I was very much concerned with with the way I thought, with that I should have a right mind at all times, and and nothing and no one should be able to to change my stance, to change my right stance about anything, about a particular thing. Yeah. And now I have started receiving these revelations tell me tell me to focus on my outer self, and and implement and do things that seem foolish to me, that seem very foolish and vain to me, that I in a way hated doing. Yeah. Yeah. So it took me a long time, at times months, to start to implement those things. For example, I received this vision in which the face of the thin face of a woman was lying on her side. She was asleep and she had red eyeliner applied on her lower eyelid. Now it seemed very vain and foolish to me. I did not want to go along with it. But but then I had also joined a Bible study program by Sis Adele. I was following that program, and in her notes, I found this line. In her notes, I found this statement that God had to put His blood in front of His eyes in order for Him to look at us. Because we are so filled with sin, we are so full of sin that He has to put His blood, His sacrificial blood that He shed for our sins on the cross, that He shed for the forgiveness of our sins on the cross, in front of His eyes for Him to be able to look at us. It was then that I understood that perhaps I was to represent that perhaps I was to represent that truth by putting that red eyeliner below my on my lower eyelids. So it would represent that God has to look. God has to put His blood in front of His eyes in order for Him to at His look at the sinful creation, look at the creation, look at the sinners on earth, yeah. Sinners that believe in Him, that believe in His sacrificial blood. Yeah. So yeah, when I came across that statement in Adele's notes, I found it easier to implement that revelation, and I went ahead with it because now it came with associated meaning. It came with a meaning. Yeah. It, it had a meaning now. So I bought red eyeliner and I started applying it to the extent that I would apply it all the time. Uh, I would keep it applied all the time, and I would sleep with it applied. With it, I would sleep with it still in my with it still on my eyes, and I would. Oh God. Um, and then I had other revelations that went in tandem with other revelations that I had. It's almost as if he's giving me revelations that go along with each other. They are coherent. So I had this song called I came across this song called Innocence by it was a remix, a mashup of this song called Innocence by Nathan Wagner. And the thumbnail, the video of that song had a lady fully dressed in multi-layered, dirty, shabby, dark clothes, and she had a red eyeliner on her lower eyelid. Uh, yeah, and she was standing in rain. She was standing as water poured down on her. And I saw how it related with my situation. I was also wearing a red eyeliner, and then I had recently began to bathe with clothes on. I was changing my strategies. I was constantly changing my strategies as strategies to use in the washroom with time. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, and then later on I started to put that red eyeliner as yeah. Um, yeah. So I wrote many things during my time in A16. I saw Jesus once. I saw him once. Then I shifted to a different PG called Apurva PG in somewhere in March or April of this year, 2023. It was because of a fight I had with my roommate. She had not been nice to me. She she was a deceptive person who lied a lot, who manipulated and lied. I liked some aspects of her personality, but then I also saw that she was an uncompromising person who wanted everything to go her way, and she did not show me and she would yeah, and her behavior was also not uh, her behavior with me was also not empathetic. She yeah, she insulted me in front of her friends, and she was social and but a political person who would use her quality of being social to gather people around and make her false point, not considering her own folly. Yeah. Yeah. So I had a tough experience with her. I had a tough experience with her. Um, yeah. Um, she, uh, yeah. Um, After some months of staying with her, her rude behavior with me increased as she would sit with her friend in her room um, and uh, talk trash about me. She would insult me directly or say mean things about my body or my career. Um, I, see, whatever I shared. So this night I was walking back to my PG with her from a convenience store, and I shared with her how I was feeling happy, how I was feeling happy about this paper, about my paper that I had recently submitted, that it might get. That it might be accepted. I was feeling too happy that night that I was done with this particular thing. And I shared it with her in a friendly manner, like the way I would do with a normal person. But she treated it as something of no significance. She acted, she said, so. she said, what will happen then? So even if it gets published, what will what? Well, it seemed to me that well, it was the only thing that mattered to me as a part of my PhD. Publishing a paper is the only thing that matters to you as a part of your PhD. And then the idea itself was revealed to me by God. The problem was given to me by God. The structure of the equations was given to me by God. And then this girl who has no sense of independence, who has no sense of independence and is reliant on her family for everything, and she is questioning everything that I have stood for in my entire life, and then she is saying she is insulting in a way, she's insulting in a way my work by saying what will happen after uh, uh, she was making the point that it isn't a huge thing if my paper gets published. But I was feeling happy that night that I had completed something related to my paper. So such incidences, her behavior was not friendly with me. I could see the deception. I could see when she was pretending. I could see when she was imitating me. I could see when she was saying false things that were not true about me. Yeah, it was hard to live with that. Uh, I had not lived. I had never lived with such people before. Uh, with such with yeah, I had never, if someone was mean to me, they were mean to my face. I did not live with these dual faced people who see, if someone hates you, why, but if someone insults you or they hate you or they don't like you, why do they want to act nice in front of you? It never made any sense to me. Like if I don't like someone, I why would I be nice? Why would I act fake nice to them in front of them? So, and that's what she did all the time. So which made me incapable, which left me incapable of being my real self with her, because I could see that she doesn't really like me, and she doesn't like the things that I do. Yeah, she doesn't like my traits, but then at the same time she is being nice to me on my face. uh, how am I then supposed to how am I then supposed to behave? How then I am supposed to respond to such a situation? So yeah, and not just her, with my previous roommates as well. The previous roommate, she was also of the same kind. Most of the girls in that PG were of the were of this had this same trait, had this common shared trait besides one or two girls. Yeah, besides one or two girls, most had this common shared trait. Yeah, it never made. Yeah, and this girl called Archie, she said to me, she said she. So there was this incident, this mean thing that had happened, and while leaving the room, this girl made this point: we all were born this way. See, she answered my question without me even asking her. She was leaving the room, my room, and while exiting, she said, with her head turned to the right, that we all were born this way. So uh, doesn't it look like there is something demonic going on here? Because uh, how does she know? So she knows, she already knows that there is a problem with her. She already knows that there is a problem with her. She knows what she is doing is wrong. And at the same time, she's saying that they all were born this way. So it this too represents, this too represents the reality of the system. It is the reality of the system that is talking through her, that they all were born this way. The human race is born this way. The serpent race is born this way. They carry the dual nature, so these people through whom demons talk, you know these yeah, so uh, Yeah. You see, I was also born this way, but I and the people that I have known, the people that I have known that I have had good bonds with, uh, uh, in earlier in my life, they were also born. They were also born this way, but somehow. Uh, but somehow they did not intentionally chose to hurt others or behave in this yeah, they did not intentionally choose to hurt others like these people, like these demonically influenced people of A16 did. I did not see any problem in the honors of that PG. Like they were quite good. They were quite good to me. Their behavior was quite good to me. But the girls of those of that, most of the girls. Now some were messenger girls, and yeah, some were not. But yeah, most of them did not seem to make. They only annoyed me with their behavior. They only annoyed me with their behavior. They talked. They wasted their time. Uh, uh, their lives seemed a waste to me. Their lives seemed a waste to me because you see they are not following. They are not following God. They are eventually going to go to hell. And if someone tells them the truth, they take it lightly, and then they are not willing to, either they are not willing to listen, or if they listen they take it very lightly, and they let it go. Even if they do so, even if they do so, uh, on so on top of doing all that, which is not in their goodwill, they are they are doing this additional thing of hurting another person. So they are doing everything that is leading them to hell, that is unholy. They don't have this inner desire to get to know God, and on top of that, on top of that, they have this. They are being led to hurt an innocent person. So don't you think there is a problem going on here? There is a huge demonic. It seems, it seems as if most were demonically influenced, if not all. Most of them were demonically influenced. Yeah. So yeah. So that was a difficult place to be in. A16, though it had it came with a cheaper rent, and I found some comfort there for some time. Yeah, for some time it was comfortable, but then it was hard uh, because of the environment created by those girls, because of my roommates, or yeah, and then my last roommate that I had there. Yeah. Then I shifted to this other PG because of a fight I had with my previous roommate. Because of a fight that I had with the roommate in A6, with my last roommate in A16, I shifted to Apurva PG, which is A10, and it lies along the same route, in the same route. Uh, it lies along on the same street, opposite, on the service lane of the Nala Road. So yeah, in that uh, in that PG, I had a sudden increase in revelations. I had a sudden increase in reception of Bollywood, in reception of revelations related to Bollywood, people from Bollywood. And it did not happen all at once. It happened one person after the next. It started with me receiving a lot of revelations related with one Bollywood figure, and then it moved on. So I had this a lot. I had this entire month of, or I had this entire month of receiving revelations about one particular person, and then it was followed by receiving revelations about another person. When I moved to, uh, yeah, um, when I shifted to a different room, I was receiving revelations about another Bollywood figure. Yeah. So now I have started to receive these revelations that don't make sense to me. Also, they make sense to some extent, but I don't know the purpose of those revelations. And then at the same time, um, yeah, and yeah, that's I there is such a lot of revelations on my head, and by that time uh, I was so mentally spent. I was so mentally spent. I was so low in energy. I used to feel mentally downcast that I stopped going to my department. I found it very hard to get ready and go and sit and uh, go and sit at my workplace, go and sit on my seat in my workplace and work. Even if I went there, I would sit with my head down. I couldn't concentrate for long durations. And then I had to record these revelations as well. Yeah. So I stopped going to my department uh, around April, I guess. April, yeah. Around April, I stopped going regularly. I stopped going to my department. So it has been May, June, July, August, September. It has been 6 months since I went to my workplace, and it has been 6 months. Yeah, I went there once, maybe a few times within this span of 6 months. But even when I went there, I returned. I returned much earlier than the usual time because I just couldn't sit there. And then there was this new fellow who joined under my previous supervisor. And this new fellow served as a messenger, and he only said hurtful things. He only said wicked things. Most of the things. His behavior was also dual. Now he is insulting me, but at the same time he's smiling. So you see this dual behavior. It gives you such headache. Okay, like how do you respond to such people? People who are insulting you, who are saying mean things about you, like you are going to be dead, or your entire family is going to be dead. So this fellow, who had just joined, this new fellow, who was actually a messenger fellow, he joined to serve as a messenger fellow, was saying things like my entire family is going to be dead. I am going to suffer a lot, and at the same time he's smiling and trying to I don't know, he's smiling and trying to build some kind of bond, and then he's also behaving in uh, immoral ways that are making it that are making me feel repelled from him. It's almost as if he has no good moral sense. He really has no good moral sense, no good moral common sense. Yeah, so this fellow made it difficult for me to sit in the to sit in the room. I was already depressed. I was not able to focus, and then this fellow made it difficult for me to sit in, yeah, to sit, because I did not want to listen to his crap. I did not want to listen, yeah, to his crap. So after, yeah, I am glad I'm not going to the department. I'm glad. Even my supervisor would tell me things. Would pass me messages uh, related to the people who are oppressing me. So yeah, so it seemed as if almost everyone is serving as a wicked messenger, and no one cares about what God thinks or what feels about what is right. Yeah, so I did not feel like going to that wicked place again. uh, it's Yeah, because you see, at the end, PhD is not what matters. What matters is you doing the right thing, right? And that what matters at the end is I would be with God. When I am with Jesus, it won't matter if I have a PhD. You see, if I had never left heaven and ended up in earth, there would be no, there would be nothing, uh, um, there would be no such thing as my plan for my life on earth. There would be no such thing as my plan for my life on earth. But I would be living in heaven, in being in obedience to God. Now, all the angelic beings that are in heaven, they're already living in obedience to God. The people on earth, they are the rebellious ones, and that's why they ended here. Okay. They left heaven to assume these flesh bodies on this place because they wanted to rebel against the Lord God. We were not supposed to assume flesh bodies, and Jonathan explains it very well. Uh, yeah, I learned many things from his ministry, and God gave me many confirming visions as well, that pertain to uh, what he teaches in his ministry. So I knew that what he teaches is that I could trust his ministry because I too received those visions as confirmation. Okay. So in Apurva PG, which is A10, I received many revelations related to some Bollywood celebrities, uh, and yeah. But then uh, I was not. I had to fast. I had to begin fasting, and also that place seemed too expensive to me. It was a double-seater room, and it was a small room, a double-seater room. Um, and I was not even eating food. I was not even having food regularly from that place. So I wanted to shift to a cheaper room, uh, preferably a single seater, where I could be in charge of my where I could be in charge of my eating schedule. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted the food freedom because I wanted to fast. 'Cause- so I yeah, so I ended up um, so I ended up shifting to this room, which is in double story, which is in Vijayanagar double story. And later on, later on I find out that this is the room that I had seen in one of my previous dreams that I had in Aiden. Yeah. Yeah. Now, in Apurva PG, my visions with Jesus also increased. In Apurva PG, I started receiving more visions, more number of visions with Jesus. Yeah, though I was still living in confusion, I did not hear his voice as clearly as other people did. But now I had more vision revelations with him. And in this room, I have um, even greater revelations with him. It's almost as if I am drawing more and more in intimacy with him. Though I still don't hear him, I still don't hear him in the way those other people do, but I have more tangible revelations from the Holy Spirit. I have more tangible revelations from the Holy Spirit when it comes to Jesus. Yeah. Uh, now you see, beginning from that, beginning from uh, entertaining the idea that Jesus could be God uh, because uh, 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 because of the fact that because of the intuitive correctness of the fact, intuitive correctness of the situation of your bad works not being able to not being compensated by your good works, but needing forgiveness uh, be, because of the correctness of this situation, I considered the possibility of Jesus being God. And today I have this. Today I have this strong bond with Jesus. Today I have this strong bond with Jesus. Yeah, and every day now he is getting more and more control. He's getting more and more in control of my days, and that's how it begins. That's how your journey with God begins. Now, last night, last night when I was roaming on the roof, I was walking to and fro. I was asking God that why didn't He reveal Himself to me the way He's doing now 2 years back? Why didn't He do it 2 years back? Why did He take so long? Why did He give me these visions now? Like, why didn't He give me specific? Why didn't He give me? Why didn't He build this intimacy 2 years back? Why now? Uh, Now there must be a reason. Perhaps I was not. I had. Perhaps I had not read enough of his word. Perhaps I did not know him well. Yeah, there could be many reasons. Because in A16, I was still reading his word. I did not know what he taught. You see, to be close to someone, you need to know what they think. You need to know their mind, right? You know them first before you. Yeah. So why would go? Yeah, you need to know them. So I did not, I can say that I did not know Jesus as such in A16. I was still getting to know him. I was reading his word. I was reading his words written. His words are written in red in New Testament. Yeah, in many of the books, his words are written in red in New Testament. So I was reading his words. I I was getting to know um, uh, about his kingdom, about how things work in his kingdom. I was following these other ministries that helped me advance in my understanding of his kingdom and a better understanding of the kingdom of darkness as well. That how devil operates and how we are supposed to operate and how yeah, so I learned many things during that time. So I think God gave me that time. I don't know, still there are examples that have there are examples of people who built instant intimacy with Jesus. For example, Jonathan had an angelic encounter. Had an angelic. He heard the voice of God in his spirit, and then it was followed by him exiting a building. And on exiting that building, he met an angel who told him to pray with him. Who called him. That angel called brother. That angel called Jonathan as his brother and told him to pray with him, and told him that he was to trust that voice that he heard in his spirit, and that it was the Lord God talking to him. You see, so there are people who had this intimacy built with God um, instantly. But for me, it took such a long time. Now, I came from a background of being an atheist. I did not know any of the Bible, but those people, they perhaps knew their Bibles. I don't know, because Jonathan, he was he was brought up as a Catholic. He was brought up as a Catholic, and even the devil even the devil knows the Bible. So it's so knowing the Bible is not as important as knowing the Holy Spirit, as following the Holy Spirit. Yeah. So I yeah, but no, but knowing the word is indeed important, but it's but following God and building intimacy with Jesus is more important. It's, it precedes knowing the word, because demons and devil, they know the word of God, but they are not, but they are in rebellion with him. They knowing the word doesn't mean you are close to God or you will enter his kingdom. But as children of God, we are called to know His word and also follow His Spirit. Yeah. So in this room, I have in this room I have for the past week, God has taken hold of my days. I wake up. I think I wake up when He wakes me up, when His Spirit wakes me up, and then He leads me to get up, get out of the bed, and then He tells me when am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to eat? When should I? And he gives me the and revelations. He leads me to lie on the floor. Like when I wanted to rest, I was feeling tired. I led on my bed, but he gave me a revelation in which I was lying on the floor, and yeah, he gave me a revelation in which I was lying on the floor. So I then led on the floor. So he is training me in a way. He's training me into humility. He's training me into humility. So if you have to work for God, he your sense of self, your previous sense of self has to be broken down first. If you have to work for God, your previous sense of self has to be broken down first. You see, yeah. So he took away my he did not take away. It's devil. It's devil that took away my dignity as a woman by stripping me publicly, uh, by sending those spy cameras. But you see, but God used that opportunity to reach out to people, to reach out to people so that they would know Him, so that they would know Him. And yeah, and he also, and then I was called by God, but God saw that I did not have the resources. I did not have the resources to go out and reach people, to reach out to a lot of people. But God is using the situation and me to reach out to His other children. And you see, He did not use me until now to perform a miracle. He has been building intimacy with me. He has been slowly building intimacy with me throughout this period of time. uh, it's now that I am at this stage where He gives me rest. Now, if I recall the previous vision of Him giving me of Him giving me rest in that of Him uh, holding me like a child, like the child, and oh, holding me vertically like a child. It's like if this is me, he was holding me like this, and he had me against his bruised boss self, and he was pampering me, and uh, he had this expression um, that showed that he was so that showed his um, he had this pent expression that showed that he was indeed in physical pain, but still he showed his love. He was pampering me like his child. You see, so it's now that I have these visions. Now he represents me as him. Now he represents um, he's calling me by his name, so which goes along with the movie, the title of the movie, Call Me by Your Name. So he is using all the sorts of so he knows my brain, he knows the things that I connect with, so he is using those things that I identify with to build intimacy with him. So it has been a very, very long process. It has been a very, very long process. And yeah, but I am glad that now finally he has taken hold of my days and he tells me these things to do. Uh, I do feel bad when I don't obey him in the first go at times. And I don't want to be like that because that's not the state I want to be when I die. That's not the state I want to be in. When I die, I want to be in a state in which I am in total obedience to Him, because that's how I am going to. That's how we are supposed to be. That's how. we are supposed to be. That's how we are going to enter heaven, because those who do his will, those who do his will enter. If you don't treat God as God, why will you enter his kingdom? So you have to treat God as God. You have to do his will. That's how you enter his kingdom. Yeah. So yeah. So in this room, I am glad that I am happy. I am happy that God has taken over my days, um, and He wakes me up. He and motivates me to get out of bed. He uh, he even served me food. He gives me visions. He gives me visions in which he comes serving. He comes with food served on a plate, and he was once massaging my head like this, and then my shoulders when I was too tired typing on my on my laptop. Yeah, and yeah, he gives me rest in different ways that I understand. Now, the ways that the revelations that he gives me, the kind of revelations that he gives me, it has nothing to do with me being a woman, because you see, the way he created me, the original way he created me uh, was me as a spirit. He created me as a spiritual being, and I assumed the form of a woman later when I chose to assume a house body, house body on earth. Yeah. So even if I was a man, say even if I was a man, even then even then he would be he even then he would use ways that he would even then he would display his love to me. Even then, even if I was a man, he would display his love to me. He would display his love to me in various ways. You see, like he does to Brother Jonathan. He tells him, he leads him to, yeah, he he shows his love to Brother Jonathan through different revelations, through different Bible verses. Yeah. So yeah, he displays his love to his people in different ways. Um, if we talk about David, David has a close. David loved God. He was a man. David loved God. He was a man, and he had a very close bond with God. Um, so yeah, if I was a yeah, if I was a man, I would be having different types of revelations, but I would still have that intimacy with God. You see, the intimacy with God has nothing to do with your gender. Yeah, intimacy with God has nothing to do with your gender. And yeah, and yeah, and the kingdom of heaven, it's not about these two genders, they exist on earth. You see, devil is if you see the idol of Satan, in which if you see the idol of Baphomet. Baphomet has devil represented as a goat head. He has the head of a goat. He has two horns. He has the body of a human, body of a human, and he has a male child and a female child tied, tied with chains to his throne. So, what does that represent? He is representing. He is showing that the male and female bodies, they are under his control, and the male and female flesh bodies, they are um, the male and female flesh bodies, um, they are under his control. That he it's devil possesses the flesh. Devil possesses the flesh, and flesh is the root cause of sin in our lives. See, for us, flesh is the root cause of sin in our lives. So you see the representation, the idol of devil, the idol of devil itself shows that the earth system, the earth male female system is under his control. that yeah, it's see, you see, the truth of the system is everywhere. It's hidden in plain sight. It's not even hidden. It's out there in open. But people have their reality of the matrix. People have their reality of the matrix so ingrained in their brain. Uh, they they are not willing. They're not willing to question to they're not willing to question, they're not willing to look around them and question the reality of things, because they are so busy in consumerism. They're so busy in consuming the bodies of other people and consuming something else. They're so busy in consuming the quote unquote notion of fun, of worldly fun. Yeah. So they don't yeah, so they don't really sit and think and question um, uh, that question about the important they don't sit and question and ask themselves the important questions, like for example, why is God, why is it necessary why is it necessary to follow God, why is it necessary to follow God as God, or is there a God, and why is it necessary to obey him, if there is a God, why is it necessary to obey him? And yeah, and where do we come from? Why do we have these flesh bodies? Why are there two genders on earth? Why are there two genders on earth? Who created these genders? So you see, the answers to all these questions are um, are hidden in plain sight. Now, the idol of devil, as that goat head Baphomet, carries the answer that he created those two genders, and he is in charge of those two genders. You see, yeah, and that idol of Baphomet, his body is that of he has the body of a man, he has the genitalia of a man, but he has breasts like a woman. So that Baphomet, that idol of devil, is half man, half woman. He has a goat head and he has two horns, and he is in charge of um, the male and female flesh bodies. So yeah, so when you get to grasp mentally grasp this reality of the system you live in, the system you live in, you you know that living for God is the only good decision you can make in your life. Living for God is the only good decision you can make in your life. Yeah. It has been 2 hours and 39 minutes, 12 seconds as of now, and I have set out a huge part of my testimony, and it also encapsulates how I reached this state of my intimacy with God, wherein wherein He wakes me up, He gives me rest, He tells me what to eat, He tells me what to wear, and He tells me where to go. He tells me that he tells me go outside and buy that. He tells me to eat something specific. Yeah, yeah. Well, see, these are all things which would seem very casual. Like these are all routine things which we decide for ourselves. But by God taking control of these things first, is leading me to be even more obedient to Him. You see, so this is a step by step process. This is a step by step process. And everyone has a different process that unfolds for them. So this is the process for me. Now, it may be different for you. It may be different for you. You will have to see it for yourself. But if you don't know God, if you don't know God, and if you're not obeying Him, you will not enter heaven. You will not enter heaven. At the end, um, you see, in that revelation that God gave me recently, that said that 95% of people are demonically possessed. They are demonically influenced in some way, and only 0.1%, point 0.1 or 1%, perhaps it was point 0.1, yeah, 0.1%, exhibit tangible signs. They exhibit visible signs, while 95% are demonically influenced in some way. So you see, this place is a home to the serpent race of devil. So yeah, this place is a home to serpent race. And why is it called the serpent race? Because what did devil do? When we assume a flesh body, we become corrupt in nature. When we assume a flesh, when a spiritual being, an angel, assumes a body, a flesh body, his character, his he becomes corrupt in nature. So his nature, which was previously like that of Jesus, so he's half Jesus and half devil. So so assuming assuming a flesh body comes with the tying up of two different kinds of natures, to tying up of your angelic self with your demonic self. So an angel begins in heaven, ends up in a flesh body, and now he is divided in his state, which is also represented in the physical representation of our DNA, which is two, which is a red, which is a red and a blue, which is a red helix wrapped around a blue helix. So this our DNA, the physical representation of our DNA itself, represents the spiritual reality. It contains the truth of the spiritual reality of the mixing of good with bad, of the system of good with bad. You see, you can't really mix good with bad. You can only tie them together. So our body, what it does is it ties them together. It ties the two different parts together, because those two parts can not really become one. Either both the parts will become good, or either both will become bad at the end. Like a person, either so there is this internal struggle in each person, between his two dual selves, between his two selves. At the end, he either becomes fully fully he either becomes um, he either becomes fully reconciled to God as his demonic self inverts, and he becomes and yeah his demonic self inverts, and um, and he gets reconciled to God, or at the end his angelic part is going to be consumed by his demonic self, and he will and he will lose a chance to be reconciled with the Lord. So these are the only two options. So at the end, on the earth, so at the end, so at the end of this earth system, what is going to happen? There are going to be two different types of races. One is the God race, and one is the devil's race. God's race is going to be um, God's race is going to come to an end. God is going to rapture his people, or and they are going to be killed at the end. It is written in the Bible. They're going to be killed at the end, and the globe is left, and the globe will be left wrapped with the serpent race alone at the end of the earth system, which then God will destroy, with with the fire of His judgment. You see, yeah, yeah. So vision that vision of um, of that globe with serpents wrapped around it, that rotating globe that represented Earth, with serpents wrapped around it. It represented uh, it represented the end the end of the earth, when 95%, when more than 95% of the population is going to be it's going to be converted to that uh, fully demonic self, that serpent race, that is going which is going to cover the entire earth. And then and then God is going to judge earth, and then God is going to inflict his judgment on this on that serpent system. So we live in this serpent system of devil, which is reserved for judgment. Yeah. So that was my testimony. That was my testimony. And it also shows how I built my intimacy with God over this period of time. You see, yeah. Initially, I was so confused. I took whatever He gave me. If He gives me one revelation, I take it. If He gives me two revelations, I take it. And even if I don't understand it, I keep it stored in my mind. And gradually I came in contact with people through whose ministries I through whose ministries I understood the meanings of those previous revelations. And now yeah and now I have my own intimate bond with God, wherein he leads me on a daily basis. He leads me in His will on a daily basis. He reveals to me His will and leads me in His will on a daily basis. So it was a long process for me. It was a long process for me. For you, it may be shorter or longer. Depends. It depends. Yeah. And I was very serious about God when I came to Jesus. I started reading His Word with a lot of seriousness, and it was very boring for me at first because I did not understand it. I did not have that kind of mind. I had a worldly. My mind was worldly. It took time to understand. It took time to understand His word. It took time to reprogram my mind according to the truth of His kingdom. You see, so when we come to know God, we have to renew our mind. We can't live with the same mind uh, that we came to God with. So we have to renew our mind every day with the help of the Spirit. So that's what I'm doing. I'm renewing my mind every day. I'm renewing my mind every day. Yeah, and even if I receive fleshly revelations, you see, those fleshly revelations, I know they don't. You see, in the kingdom of heaven, we are not going to have flesh bodies. I know that if He gives me fleshly revelations, they come with an underlying meaning. They come with an underlying. They come with an underlying. Um, yeah, they come with an underlying meaning, and I understand that there is a reason He is giving me those fleshly revelations, because but perhaps because I'm not used to them. Yeah. And yeah, so that was my testimony. And that was my testimony of coming to Jesus and reaching this stage of building intimacy of this stage of intimacy with Him, where he where where He wakes me up. He drags me to brush teeth. He drags me in the morning. Oh, okay. He in the first vision of in the first such vision, he was holding my hand and taking me to the balcony to brush my teeth. And in the second one of such vision, he was dragging me on the. I was sitting on the floor with my legs outstretched, and he had my hand held in his as he walked. As he took me towards the balcony. Um, yeah, and I was being stretched. I was being dragged on the floor in a sitting position. So yeah, he gives me. So he takes he understands. You see, if I'm not able to do something, he understands that there is a reason behind it. that if I am suffering, there's a reason behind it. He sees it all, and nothing is hidden from his sight. He reminded me of my sins from. He reminded me of my sins from many years back, many, from say from my childhood. From my childhood, he reminded me of my sins from childhood. So yeah, he keeps a record of everything. He knows everything. He reminded of the sins of my oppressors from a year back, of the deeds that they did, and he shows me their sins. He shows me what they do. Even now, even these days, he tells me, he shows me the things that they do. When it's, yeah, uh, why am I receiving revelations related to their lifestyle? They are supposed to be they are supposed to be receiving those revelations. They are supposed to be having a bond for themselves with God and ask Him what they are supposed to do and how they live their lives. You know, uh, I am just I am just another one of His child. It's not that I am a great it's not that I am a great guide or a great teacher. Okay, I but we all who get to know God, all of us who get to know God have this responsibility to spread His word and bring more children into His kingdom. And it could be in different ways. Yeah. For me, it has been through my written ministry, and he used for Jonathan. It has been he makes videos. He does what God tells him. He goes to places where God sends him. For Adele, it is by releasing His word, and yeah, she also spends a similar time with God. She rests with God in the morning, and if God gives her a word, she keeps a note. She takes a note of it and then releases it, and likewise with other people. You see, these are some basic things that all believers, that all people who have well established ministries know. But this is not a video for them. This is a video the for the for those who have for those who don't know God at all and who don't have a reason to follow God, and um, who for those who for those people who think that they don't need God, and for those who don't really understand which God to follow, and and that what characteristics should define God, and what is perfection, and if there is a God, He should be perfect, and what counts as perfection. So yeah, uh, so my video is for those people who don't know anything about God and who don't know which God to follow and the character traits that God is supposed to follow. Yeah. So you see, a system of good and evil, a system of good and evil, uh, can only be of devils. It cannot be of gods. You see, a system of good and evil, a kingdom that consists of good and evil. It cannot be a kingdom of God. Okay, the kingdom of God is when we will be in the kingdom of God, we will have our glorified bodies. We will have our glorified bodies, and we will be made in His likeness. It, we will receive bodies that are in His likeness, and we will no longer be this dual self, but we will be reconciled through His Spirit, and we will be made whole through His Spirit. Anyway, so yeah, it's going to be about 3 hours. It was a long testimony, and yeah, it's hard for me to speak in flow because that's not the I yeah, because of the reasons I already described previously in this video. But I hope, despite my speech limitation, I made I was able to make clear points. I was able to make clear points uh, about my journey with God by far. Yeah. So now I will end this live stream. Currently, this song plays in my spirit. Um, this song that says that I have seen the Messiah walk on the roads, and I have seen a flower burn in blazing fire. These uh, okay. The corresponding Hindi lyrics are मसीह ने ढाल सुएदार जलते देखा है भड़कती आग में एक फूल जलते देखा है. So these lyrics often repeat in my spirit, which make me think if I don't know, which make me think if I'm going to face death by by being burned ablaze. I don't know, by an inner explosion or inner or outer explosion. I have no idea. But these lyrics often play in my spirit, and these were also what played in my spirit as I was talking about ending the video. Yeah. Talking for 3 hours has made my voice hoarse. You see. I'm not used to talking a lot. Yeah, and yesterday, before ending this live stream, I would add this brief experience from roof. Uh, when I was walking on the roof yesterday, I was looking up at the sky and I looked at the creation and I saw how great God was. Like He created all that, He created everything, and He was so real. I saw He is so real and He created everything. Everything He created is right in front of our eyes, and I saw how people did not at all care about God, how people did not at all care to know if there was a creator, and if yeah, and if they should know, if they should, and if there was, if they should get to know Him. That they were so consumed with the worries of this world. They were so consumed with their daily chores, with they are so consumed with what I would with what I would call as um, inferior thoughts. Inferior thoughts. Yeah, because you see, superior thoughts are those that are focused on God. Superior thoughts. Um, a superior way of thinking is that incorporates God in it. Uh, in it, yeah. And an inferior way of thinking is which is that which is entirely worldly. That's which is so. I looked around and I saw people. They don't have God in their minds. Don't have God in their hearts. They don't know anything about God. They uh, they don't want to hear him. They don't want to know if he's a friend. They don't. They don't. They see him as God, but they don't really. They don't want to know if they can be friends with him, if he can be a friend to them in ways that they did not expect him to be. They don't care about all that. Yeah, but as I walked on roof, I looked up in the sky. I saw stars, and then I looked around me and I saw all these brick walls and everything. Like, um, basically atoms, basically the constituting matter of everything. So I looked at everything and I saw that everything was created by God. Okay, devil, yeah, that everything was created by God. It was all a proof that God existed, but no one cares. And I was also and as I looked up at the sky, I I felt so enchanted. Yeah, I was so amazed at what God had created. I I couldn't stop myself from saying, wow, wow. I said it repeatedly as I looked. As I looked at the nature of God, at the perfect nature of God, that look, like He's not a man like us. Like we are so limited. We are so limited in our bodies. There are a limited number of things we can do. But look at him. Like he sees everything from his throne, and he knows everything. He knows everything. He sees everything. He created everything from his word. From a word, he can create things, and he uses creative ways to create different types of things depending on the kind of importance or the kind of place they hold to him, the kind of importance they hold to him. Yeah, so uh, I saw how he was a great creator who did not yeah, like he, you see, on earth we classify people on the basis of their looks, on how they look, their outer looks, or how they, or the amount of money they have. These two things are the only things that matter on earth. Yeah. And but God, you see, but God, no one has seen God. Like no, no, God doesn't has a, God doesn't has a face that of a human, a face like that of a human, and He doesn't possesses cash. He doesn't possesses money. He doesn't possesses earthly money. He doesn't possesses earthly cash. He doesn't. He doesn't. Yeah, he is not. He is not. He is. He is not rich in the earthly sense, and he is not beautiful in the earthly sense. But he is God. You see, he. But he is God. He. Yeah. So he's so above. Like he's so above the earthly system. He's so above the earthly system. Uh, yeah, and when I was on roof, I saw how uh, I was basically, I was basically praising his divinity, his divine, his nature, his nature that was nothing, that was his nature and kingdom that was nothing like what we see around on earth. Yeah, uh, yeah. Uh, I saw how uh, like he is above, he is above everything. He's above everything, and he doesn't. He is superior the just by just by the characteristic, just by the property of him being God. He is superior just by his natural characteristic of him being God. Like regardless of his outer fleshly looks, or the amount, or what he possesses. Like he possesses everything. He possesses everything. That's what I was looking at. That he possesses everything he created. He possesses the stars. He possesses the planets, and he possesses space. He possesses everything, everything that he possesses. All his children that he created. But yeah, and he doesn't need he doesn't need to buy anything. He doesn't need to buy anything, you know. He can create things. He can create things. So I was looking at his greatness. I was basically looking at his nature and greatness. Yeah. uh, and that how, despite being all that, he's so uh, despite being all that, he's so lowly. Like he's so meek. He's so meek and humble in nature, that he would be born as a carpenter on earth. He would be born as a carpenter on earth, and he would actually do the work of carpentry, and he would sleep. He did not have a place to stay and sleep while he was on earth. He roamed here and there, and he did not have, yeah, uh, but but yet he had everything. Like, he did not have anything. He did not possess anything on earth when he was on earth, when he was a man. But he had everything. In principle, he possessed everything because he was God. Yeah, and uh, yeah, and I saw, I was filled with immense awe. I was filled in immense with immense awe of his nature when I was roaming on the when I was roaming on the roof above. Yeah, it filled me with such great joy, and yeah, when I look at his nature, I can't stop praising him. I just can't stop praising him. Uh, yeah, you see, if God, you see, God has many angels. God created many angels as in His kingdom. Now, there are millions. I don't know how many angels praise Him together. He did not need to come to earth for sinners like us to die for us, but He still chose to do that. Okay, He has many angels. He has many angels already worshiping Him, and he could directly sentence us to death. He could directly sentence us to hell, but he did not choose to do that. He gave us a chance. He gave us a chance to make it because to make it into his kingdom. And why did he do that? Because uh, because because he created us with love. He created us. We are his children. We are his creation. That's why he gave us a chance through his sacrifice on his cross. And then I was also looking at and then I was also looking at yeah, that if he has many angels in heaven who are worshiping him, you see, their bond is that of obedience and love. Like, there is one God, and then there is everyone else. So all those angels, they know that they are God's children and they are brethren. They are brethren. They are brethren among themselves, and they worship God uh, from that viewpoint of yeah. They worship God from that level. Uh, Now God doesn't try to, you see, yeah. So in in such a setting, uh, it makes sense that uh, the- when it comes to God, it makes sense that God should have many angels, that God should have many millions and billions of angels worshiping Him, because He is God. Because He is that great. He possesses those qualities. Why should God only have one? Why should God only have only one created being when He can create many beings, right? Why should God only have one created being? He because no created being can ever match Him. No created being can ever match Him. Uh, he yeah. So he deserves to be praised and worshipped by many created beings because of who he is, yeah. So so him having many people who praise and worship him, it makes sense. It makes sense in heaven. It makes sense in heaven. But uh, but on earth, on earth, the system on earth, the way in which people fornicate, they want to have many partners, and then they are not in a covenant bond. They don't follow God and His statutes. That doesn't make sense because you see, they are just a human. They are just a human. Now they may think they are superior because of their they may think they are superior because of their worldly position, or the amount of money they possess, or the way they look. But at the end, they're mere humans. They're mere humans. You see, God. is superior because of his qualities, because of his natural qualities. You know, yeah. He deserves to be worshipped by millions and billions of angels. I am so glad that I got to be a part of that group. I am so glad I'm going to be a part of that group. But I don't want on earth, while I am on earth, I don't want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of any. I don't want to be a part of an immoral group. An immoral. I don't want to be a part of an immoral group that doesn't worship God. As simple as that. We are called to be set apart. We are called by God to be set apart and worship Him in the Spirit and get to know Him more through His given revelations and His Word. And yeah, and sanctify ourselves as He leads us to, as He according to the ways He shows us. Yeah. Yeah, so yesterday while roaming on the roof, I was I was feeling too in awe of God's nature, who He was, and how great He was, how perfect He was, how how He created, how He spoke the nature, how He spoke everything into existing. And yet He is so humble and meek that He gave me the revelation in which He is squeezing a mop in a bucket. He's and he will be a car and he's so humble that he will be born as a carpenter who did not have a place to stay, who slept from, who did not have a stable place to lay his head. Yeah, but but people as men, as being mere men and women, they think so highly of themselves. They think so highly of themselves. Yeah, uh, yeah, like it. Uh, we need to learn from God. You see, it's only when we look at God, it's only when we look at God that we recognize our own limitations, the way that we lack, the way that we lack in our character, the way we could be more like Him. It's only by observing God. It's only by observing God, learning from Him, uh, and learning His different facets through His given revelations and His Word. It's God alone who can sanctify and refine a person. It's through sanctification and refinement alone can we enter His kingdom. Because it is written that fornicators, adulterers, the sexually immoral, the uh, homosexuals, thieves, and there is a whole list of such people, the proud, the arrogant. Such people are not going to enter the kingdom of heaven. Yeah. uh, being so only when we look at the nature of God can we identify the parts that are ungodly in us, and then we can rectify those parts and be more like Him. Yeah, and when we are more like Him, He's pleased. When we become more like Him, He's pleased. uh, Now you see, we often now people. Some people call God as a narcissist. They say that God wants to control everything. Why does He want to control your life? Why does He wants to make you an extension of Him? Why does He wants to make you like Him? Why should you be an extension of Him? But you see. Uh, he created us in His image. He created us to be like Him, and he is a perfect being, and a perfect being is expecting he's and a perfect being has created you to carry his nature, and it is a good thing. If a perfect being has created you to carry his nature, is to carry his good nature, then then it is a good thing to be. It is a good state to be in. But you see, so he is not a narcissist in that way. He is a perfect being who expects you to walk in the right, and who expects you to follow him, because his will for you is good for you. Though it may not seem good to you, to your own self. And also, also, uh, he has the right. He has the right to direct the path of your life, because he's God. Because he's God. So it's you who need to know your place. It's you who need to know your place in front of God. It's not God who is a narcissist, but it's you who is a narcissist, because you don't give God His place, and you leave God and His statutes aside, and you want to live your life your own way. So God is fixed at its place. His throne is his throne is unshakable. He's going to be God for eternity. He is an eternal being. Okay, but it's those who refuse to follow him. They are the ones who are the narcissists. It's not God who is a narcissist. So you see, it's this is narcissists want to make others an extension of themselves. They want to impose their ways of thought, the way they think, uh, they want to impose themselves on others and want to convert others into an image of them. They want others to worship them in a way. Narcissists want others to worship them, but you see, God God deserves worship. Narcissists they don't deserve worship. They don't carry those qualities. They don't have those godly qualities. They have wicked. They are wicked. They are okay with hurting others, using deceitful ways. Using deceitful ways, they use people to earn supply. God deserves praise and worship. He's perfect. He is so meek and lowly and humble in his self, and he is that great that he deserves. Praise and worship by many of his created beings. Yeah, yeah. So it's 3 hours. I have crossed the mark of 3 hours and 18 minutes, but I have completed my testimony. Now I have come across some testimonies that are quite long. Yeah, I have come across videos that were 4 to 5 hours long. So, and also, this video covers a span of a few years, and also explains the changes in my thought processes that I underwent when I started following God, as I came to God. And I came from a background of being an atheist, where no one in my family followed God as such. Um, they did not follow any religion. My dad had a personal preference of Buddhism, but my mom, she did not have any personal preference for a God. And yeah, though she would at times chant names out of her past habit of chanting the name of that god. But yeah. So I come from a background of um, a background that doesn't really worship God. But God chose me. God chose me out. God chose me out from that family. Uh, because I don't know why He chose me, why He chose me, but I do know that Bible verse that says that God chose His people from the beginning. Before He created His people, He chose them. Before He created His people, He chose them. So God chooses His people before He creates them. And also, yeah, there was one more thing. Um, and it was an important point that I wanted to make. Um, what was, um, Yeah, yeah. So this particular incident, uh, you see, I had my first vision from God, that by vision, when I was watching that 5 hour long video. But I had my first tangible experience with God long before that. And it was in 2017, perhaps, when I was not yet enrolled in my PhD. I got enrolled in my PhD in April 2018. And it was somewhere in 2017, or perhaps towards yeah, it was somewhere in 2017 that I was lying in my bed and I was very sad. I had no thoughts. I had, um, I was lying thoughtless on my bed and I was staring at the ceiling. I was staring at the ceiling and I was filled with silent sadness. But a state where you don't have you don't have you don't seem to come up with any word, but you just sit and you are sad. So I was that still sad, and I looked at the ceiling. I was like, I was like, you can lifeless rock lying on the bed, a motionless rock lying on the bed. And then I felt the sensation of a kiss on my left cheek. All of a sudden, I felt the sensation of a kiss on my left cheek, and it took me by surprise. Took me by surprise, and yeah, and it brought me out of that state. And I looked around, and but I can't really feel. I didn't feel any person. I didn't feel any person. I didn't feel the presence of any person. But I had that sensation of kiss arise on its own. Like that kiss arose on its own on my cheek. I did not understand this experience, but I stored it. I stored it in in my bag of other experiences that I did not yet understand. Yeah. So that was my first experience, tangible experience with God. I did not know Him. I did not. I wasn't following God back at that time. In 2017, I was not following God. I did not know Him, but He was watching me. He watched me lie on my bed, sad, and He was with me in that moment. He was with me in that moment, and He showed it by dropping a kiss on my cheek. So yeah, I will always remember. I will always remember that. Um, I only realized that it was I only realized it was God after I came to God. After I came to God, and I realized that it was God who gave me those equations. Those who showed me that structure of the model equations that I was to work on as a part of my PhD. Um, yeah, it was. And I realized later that it was God who showed me that structure of model equations. So yeah, I have these wonderful experiences with God that make up my life by far, and I will not trade them. I will not trade them um, for any materialistic blessing, for any materialistic blessing, to be honest. You see, because when Jesus lived his life, Jesus was not, Jesus could create anything. Like Jesus did not come here enjoy, to enjoy worldly life, to enjoy worldly riches. You know, Jesus did not come to earth to enjoy worldly riches, to live a comfortable life. Jesus came here for a mission. And Jesus and even his disciples, when they followed him, they also they lived like the way he did. They also did not expect to live in to live in high comfort conditions. Yeah. So Jesus, we can learn from Jesus a lot. You know, he was God, and he did not really need to come to earth to 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 die for the sins of his children who had rebelled against him. But he still did. But he still came to earth, and yeah, and he lived a meek. and humble life. He lived a lowly life. He slept on the ground. He did not have a stable space to stay. He went from place to place preaching. He always dressed humbly in in holy clothes. He dressed humbly in holy plain clothes. He didn't wear expensive clothes on earth. He yeah, and um, his disciples lived in the same manner as well. They did not live flashy lives. Yeah, so uh, and yeah, but they were all called. They were all called by him. They were all called by him, and they were all working for him. So you see, God has shown us a model of how we are supposed to live on earth. We are not supposed to be. We are not supposed to be uh, distracted or too enthralled by what we see around. Because uh, you see, because it's not our home. It's not our home. When we get to our home, which is heaven, then then we should be happy by looking around us. And in heaven, I don't know if it's true, but in heaven I have heard that you have golden roads, you have roads of gold, and you have streets of gold. There are houses of gold. I don't know, but people speak, people talk. I have heard some people talk, um, um, and yeah, and even in a vision. Innovation, when I was reading Proverbs, I was reading Proverbs. It was back in A16, and I was staying in D4. Uh, when I started reading Proverbs, I saw Jesus. I saw a vision of a road, of a golden road, extending in the right direction. I saw it. I saw a vision of a golden road extending in the right direction, and Jesus stood at the beginning of that road, and he gestured at me with an extended hand towards that road. So you see, and that road extended in the right direction. So he was showing me that uh, that Proverbs, that part of the book called Proverbs, it 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 represented the golden path. It represented the golden path of living. You see, it represented the golden path of life. This is the golden path of life that you should live and you should walk, even if you have to walk alone on it. And then yeah, so if that is a golden path to walk on, and heaven is a place where all where no sin is allowed, where people are in the likeness of God. So so even if there are golden paths and golden streets, it would make sense because it represents, because it would reflect the reality of people actually walking on the golden path that they are internally walking on. You see. The people actually walking on the golden path, that they are internally carrying the nature uh, n- n- nature of that allows them to walk on the that allows them to behave, to behave in a godly way. Yeah. So it would make sense. It would make metaphorical sense if heaven is like that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's almost 3.5 hours, and I will end my live stream now. Um, I feel good after sharing my testimony. It was a long, this video was long pending, and I wanted to show, yeah, I wanted to show the stress that God, Jesus pointed, Jesus pointed to me while holding it like this. Yeah, he, for some reason, he wanted me to dress in this dress, which was which which was aligned with me for a long time. Perhaps, yeah, it has been lying with me for many months. There are many clothes that I bought that have been lying with me for many months. And then I recently received a revelation in which an actor rushed uh, with some shopping bags uh, happily. And as he entered his car, he looked up at the viewer and said, "I am going to heaven." so, so I don't know if God had me buy this. You see, yeah, God can make you buy things for several reasons. So perhaps God made me buy these things to have a good time with Him, which I am happy to do so. Yeah, even if these days are numbered, but I know that at the end of my journey on earth, I will get to see Him for real. And the difficulties that you face on earth are actually worth it. Are actually worth it. If you get to see the King of Kings at the end, if you get to see Jesus in the end, it's worth it. Yeah. You see, no person on earth, no matter how they look or how or um, or how their worldly position is, no person on earth. No person on earth has um, has a higher value above another when it comes to the kingdom of heaven. No person on earth has a value higher than another person when it comes at their inner constitution, when it comes at the level of their inner constitution. So for God, um, uh, uh, for God, he looks at our nature and deeds, and and he looks at us as his created spiritual beings whom he wants to convert back to that state, so that we can live with him, in our glorified bodies. Yeah, I think I'm done here. It was, yeah, I have now released my testimony with you, and this yeah, I think I will show this dress. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus stood holding this dress like this. He was holding this dress like this, and he had hearts, two love hearts, two red love hearts in front of his eyes and he was smiling, and he was he had a big smile on his face, and he held this dress like this when he and then he gestured to me. Then he gestured to me to. I was not planning on to bathe that day, as I laid on floor praying. But he gestured to me to return the tiffin I had, and make the payment for it, and after that, get ready in this dress. So, and I already have the dress revelation for tomorrow, so, which he gave to me before I started this video. I am kind, yeah. So tomorrow will be a new day. You see, he's not having me perform miracles as of now, but he's building intimacy with me. You see, because intimacy with God is as important as is much more important than doing miracles in His name. It's much more, because when you are intimate with God, it's then you know His will, and then you follow His will. If you're not intimate with God, you will not know His will. Yeah, because I want to read this. I want to read a few Bible verses. This, Um, well, um, I want to read. Well, first of all, uh, I I was talking about reading a verse that would show why we need to be intimate with God. Yeah. So it was this video that this verse away from. You see, uh, so this verse, Matthew 7:23 of New Living Translation, that says, um, "But I will reply." Jesus is saying these words, "But I will reply, I never knew you. Get away from me, you who break God's laws." Okay, so God's laws are moral laws, and they start at the level of at the start and they start at at a mental level. They start at a mental level. Okay. Breaking God's laws start at a mental level before you break them physically. So you see, we have this. Yeah. So these verses from Matthew 7, not everyone who calls out to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Only those who actually do the will of my Father in heaven will enter. On judgment day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, we prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and performed many miracles in your name. But I will reply, I never knew you. Get away from me, you who break God's laws. So you see, so God is saying that even if someone is performing all those miracles in His name, even if someone is performing all those miracles in His name, and yeah, but they don't know God. They don't keep His moral laws. They are wicked, and they did not sanctify themselves. They are still not going to make it into heaven. You have to do the will of God. You have to know Him. You have to know Him. You have to know Jesus. You see, so he spent all this time with me, so that I would know Him, so that I would know Him. So you see, knowing is so much important. Knowing is so much important to God. Uh, and then you see these people that oppress, that are serving as, that are playing the role of abusers in my life. They call me as volunteer. They call me as volunteer. Well, everyone whom God calls is a volunteer for God, but they are also a child of God and they're loved by God. And you see, God spent all this time building intimacy with me. He has not been building intimacy with them. Now uh, they would have to take steps. They are responsible for their walk with God. Like I have spent time praying to Him. I spend time reading the Word, uh, in order to get close to Him. I developed an emotional bond with Him. I developed a mental and emotional bond with Him. I developed a spiritual bond with Him. I am connected to Him with the Spirit, with His Holy Spirit. So I invested in God. I invested in building a bond with God. Okay, so when you volunteer, it's a very objective thing. It's a very objective thing. You don't have a bond. You don't need to have a bond when you volunteer. But I have spent all this time building a bond with God. Okay, so there are those. Yeah. So if I was to hire someone to do an objective work for me, that would be called volunteering. But we in our deeds are volunteers, but we in our essence are not volunteers. We in our essence are children of God, His created beings. So these people who themselves are not, so these people who themselves don't take any steps in knowing God. They don't take any steps forward in knowing God and getting closer to Him, and they don't do, yeah, they don't care about their stance with God, because which is very much apparent in how they live their lives, and the kind of things they say, and the kind of the kind of decisions they make. Yeah, so. These people, uh, they then come and target those who are actually working for God and whom God has shown real love to. Now, if I was just a volunteer, He wouldn't have kissed my cheek, first of all. Yeah, yeah. So that was my testimony. Yeah, that was my testimony. Yeah. Now I am more than happy to volunteer for God in His miracles. But that's not the only thing that matters to me. What matters to me is my bond with Him. And now I may lose my, now He may not have me perform miracles in His name, but that's okay with me. I am happy to live with Him. I am happy to live in His presence. It's my bond with Him that matters. It's the fact that I know the that I finally know the God of the universe. That finally know the God of the heavens and everything. Uh, the God who created everything. That's what matters. And then yesterday, while roaming on the roof, I was also thinking how this stage that I was at, this was kind of the stage at which a human journey ends. Like, where does a human journey, where does the journey of a human ends? The journey of the a human journey ends when he comes to God, and he starts obeying Him, and he starts listening from Him, and he actually starts living with God. So that's where your human journey ends in principle. It doesn't end when you have accumulated enough wealth, or when you are successful in your career, or when you are at the pinnacle of your career, or have a family, or are happily married, or have a family, or or have everything going perfect in your life. Your human journey ends when you come to God, regardless of your situations, regardless of your outer situations. So I was thinking that I was nearing the end of my human journey on earth, which is what many other believers are also, um, which is also what many other believers have already reached. Like, look at Jonathan, he's also at the end of his human journey. This is the end of our human journey. And when we leave our body, then we then will begin the uh, then will begin then will be the beginning of our spirit. Then will be the beginning of our journey with God in our glorified bodies, in our glorified bodies. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I feel good after sharing my testimony. I don't think I have anything more to talk about. I only have some revelations that I am yet to write. I'm yet to record from the past few days. I now need to take some rest. I will perhaps make I will perhaps make some tea or coffee and have his communion with God, and then see what He chose me to do. Yeah. I'm so glad He tells me exactly, like he told me. You see, He teach when our heart is right. See, my heart is right towards Him. So He's teaching me. Now, if your heart is right towards God, He will teach you. He will teach you. He will teach you the right way to approach Him. He will teach you the right way to act. He will teach you the right way. So he taught me to lie on floor instead of bed when praying to Him. You see, it's a more humble position. So he taught he yeah. So in the same manner, he taught me many things. He taught me to pray on my knees. He gave me a vision, so which otherwise wouldn't have come naturally to me, because to me the position in which I pray don't matter to me. What matters to me is my heart state. So I could reason that God, if my even if I'm on my knees, but if my heart state is not right towards you, of what's the point of praying on my knees? But your heart state has to be right. But praying on your knees has a symbolic significance, that we bow down, that we bow down in in obedience to God. And it is it is and it doesn't stand alone. It is an augmentation of your heart state. It comes as an augmentation of your heart state, and it is not something that you have to perform as an isolated act. Yeah. So yeah. So I think I'm done now. Yeah. So he has taught me many things. He has taught me many things. So when your heart is right, he will teach you. When your heart is right, he will teach you. Okay. Like he has taught me. Oh yeah, though in the earlier stages of my video, I was a bit nervous and I was blank. I did not know how where to start speaking. At which point I should take in my testimony. Yeah, but I think I have managed to bring everything together, and and make sense of things. Yeah, um, whoever watches this video and makes it to the end, thanks for being patient. Thanks for being patient and with my stutter, with, with my way of speech and the way I stutter. Yeah, and I hope you leave with an encourage. You leave and encouraged. You leave encouraged to know God more, and as you see how He's invested in your personal life, how He's invested in the personal life of each individual, as He wants to build an active bond, an active bond with Him, and not a passive one, and not a passive one. He wants to have an active bond with each individual, like He has an active bond with me and other believers that follow Him, that hear from Him. Okay, then I will now end this live stream, and yeah, until next time, Jai 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 Masidi, Jai Masidi.